If you look across the draft board, I think you've said this a lot of times, no two draft lists are the same. Do you think it would be even more volatile this year than it is in most? Maybe once you get past the first couple of picks, is it more uncertain? Are you more interested or intrigued in how this is going to go because it's less predictable than usual?
Well, I think when there's no consensus sort of top 5 or top 10, or you can look at the mock drafts of the experts and you can see they're all over the place after, even in the top a little bit. So, yeah, it's probably going to be unpredictable. But again, there's 32 teams that have their list that they guard like their most valuable secrets. So none of us know what the other teams are thinking. Yeah. Their list could be similar to ours or very different, and we'll see once we get through the top 10. It could be, there could be guys that we don't have in our first round that go in top 10, and or could go right exactly the way we have at our list, and then we'd be taking 12th on with our 12th pick, 12th on our list. But I doubt it'll go that way. I think it'll go the other way, where there's going to be some oohs and ahs and surprises in the top 10.
Does that make this draft maybe more interesting than some or most?
Yeah. I mean, we have great opportunities with 6 and 12, and like I've said before, we're going to keep our options open. We've gotten a lot of offers for those picks, and we're looking at them, weighing their value to us and the future and all those things, and it might take until we get to 5 to decide on 6, and it may take to 11 to decide on 12, but those are the options that we're looking at right now. Is that maybe there's a young player available that we like more than what 6th pick would give us, as we would know after 5th pick exactly who we would take, and I think that there would be a deal in place beforehand, so that when the 5th pick's gone, we know who we're taking at 6. We already made that decision that, okay, we're going to make the trade instead of the player that we'd be picking because we think he's more valuable, but at the same time we could also decide the other way, where we say the guy that we're getting at 6 is better than the opportunity we have through a trade.
Is that deal currently in place, or you're just speaking?
No, we're working on putting some of the proposals in order and valuing them against our list, and projecting on what we might not get at 6. But again, we could sit here all day long and say we think we're going to get that guy at 6, and then he could go at 5. So you never know.
Yeah. How hard is it? Because I know you want to win, and everybody wants to win, and winning now is preferred. How tough is it to sort of stay the course with the restarting? Because I'm guessing you could trade 6 and 12 for immediate help that would make the Blue Jackets a better team next year. But how challenging is it to stay the course and know what you're building toward, and that maybe you may not be ready for some of those pieces just yet?
Yeah, I don't think it's difficult at all, because that's why we've said all along that we're not going to make a trade for just the immediate help. It has to be something that we can build with into the future, and we hold the rights for 7 years with the players coming into the entry level, and we're not going to trade a pick for a guy that we could potentially control for 2 years, and then we, once our window starts opening, that we would be really ready to compete for Stanley Cup. All of a sudden, we don't have that guy anymore. That doesn't make any sense. So no, we're going to only do it for a young player that's going to be with us for a long time, and somebody that we can build with our core, and grow with our core, and also fill in the need. But it doesn't. The immediate help is not the biggest focus. It's immediate and into the future rather than just the immediate.
How confident, like by the time we get to the draft on Thursday and it's starting, is there any way that you in the front office and everything will feel confident that you kind of know how things may shake out in the top 5 before you, or is that completely, like each year, is that just kind of a surprise if you're sitting there at 6?
We're just going to have to wait and see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and scratch them off our list.
Yeah. How often do you game those situations out when you're sitting that high? Like, to just do it a lot, like just go through every single scenario and be like, if this guy gets it there, that kind of thing, and then you guys know.
No, we have our list. We have our list. That's what we work on all year. The order of our list. We can't worry about what the other teams are going to do because we have no control over it, and there's no way of predicting what they're going to do. So we have our list, and as soon as somebody gets picked, we go, that guy's gone. And whoever's the highest on our list at the time of our pick is the guy we take.
And that doesn't change with positional need at all, or?
No. Why would it? We might have a completely different need at that time than when that guy's ready. Could be a defenseman that we draft right now who's going to be a real good NHL player. It'd be 4 years before he plays in the NHL.
Yeah. Well, I just remember, I think you said with two high picks like that maybe, the position.
Maybe if we take a center at 6, maybe right. Then we'll, if it's a tie, then maybe we'll look at a defenseman or something at 12 or something else.
You came into this a year ago with a lot of moving parts. You had 3 first-round picks, but you had to make a pretty big trade on draft night, things like that. End up having a season, I think, that was better than a lot of people probably expected outside of the front office. How much better do you feel now going into this than you maybe did a year ago with so much uncertainty versus the success you've had over the building you've done over the last year to get to this point?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of internal growth. I mean, we had a great impact in our lineup from an 18-year-old, and now he's going to be a 19-year-old, and we're still going to temper the expectations because young players can go through ups and downs, but a guy like him with his drive, he's going to keep getting better, whether it is without bumps and going this way or with little bumps but moving the trajectories the right way, and Cole Sillinger's going to keep getting better. Just because of the drive and desire he has to be a better hockey player. So, Ken Johnson the same way, and a lot of our young guys, Boquist, Bean, those guys, they're going to keep getting better. They're going to get stronger, bigger. We have a lot of those guys. So that way we'll keep improving. And at the same time, we're going to look at our needs and weaknesses and what we can do from other means that we have, which is free agency and trades, and that's why we're doing what we're doing right now with evaluating what may be available for 6th pick or 12th pick instead of making the draft pick. Because if it's for a 20 or 21-year-old, a 20 maybe 22-year-old player that's already playing in the NHL, and we know that we can control for many years. But can give us also that immediate help. It could make all kinds of sense for us, but it's not going to happen for a 26-year-old good NHL player that has 1 year left before he's a UFA. It doesn't make any sense for us.
Does that growth that you've had maybe allow you to feel like you can be a little more aggressive at this point, just maybe than you would have felt a while back, just because you feel like you have had some pretty big steps made by the team and some of those young players you're mentioning?
I don't know if it really changes. I think that we're projecting us to keep getting better, and like Zach Werenski's still young, and he's our key piece there. But we don't have a lot of older guys. I mean, we have Gus Nyquist and Jake Voracek as leaders of older veteran players. But other than that, most of our guys are in the 20s, and we're a young team. So we also have to have that. My least favorite word, patience, a little bit to grow and really realize that, okay, now is the time that we're going to get aggressive. And like we did that in 2019, where we felt that, okay, we had a good opportunity with the team that we had there. And that window with the whole group was kind of closing because we knew what off-season was going to bring. So we got aggressive, and we will again, as long as it's the right time.
How much do you think the situation with Russia or Ukraine may affect this draft as far as Russian prospects? Well, I know we just had that player about a week ago with the military service thing.
I can't speak on anybody else's behalf. I mean, we're going to just do our list like we normally do, and then go accordingly. And it's obviously a difficult situation for those players, but it is what it is.
Does it give you, Ed, when you're putting your list together, does it give you pause, like to think, do we want that guy that high if we can't, if there's a chance we can't get him over here within 3-4 years or something like that?
We're going to just do our list based on their hockey ability, and that'll be it.
I mean, you spoke to the very few veterans, the older players you have in the room, I should say. How difficult is it to read, from your perspective, which pieces you can afford to take out of that mix? In other words, if you're gonna thin out your forward herd and improve the back end, as many have speculated, it's gonna have to be a player of note that leaves. You've got to be careful pulling veterans out of the lineup, do you not? Just the way the culture you're trying to foster here.
Yeah. It's always tough to, if you lose leadership, but at the same time, new leaders are emerging. I mean, we had a great leader, Nick Foligno, and he left, and then Boone Jenner was our next captain and did a great job with it, and is now viewed as a great leader and a great captain. That's how leaders emerge. They see the opportunity to take the next step and more responsibility, and because they've earned it, and that little void there that was created by somebody leaving gives them that opportunity to get a voice in the room, and more of a voice, and I can't speak highly enough about Boone, how he led the group, and the rave reviews that he got from all the players as a leader and the captain. So, as leaders leave, leaders emerge, and that's why I think that it's so important to have character players on your team. And like I see Cole Sillinger as a potential captain of a National League hockey team, and he's that type of character.
Yeah. Have you reminded yourself that there's probably not going to be a kid you draft this year that goes right into the NHL? Do you have to remind yourself that? Just how
No, actually, because I never expect that. So I just refuse to make that expectation, and we certainly didn't have that with Cole last year either. But he just kept earning every step of his way. So what are you going to do? I mean, you have to also let the guys earn what they deserve, and he did, and there was no denying it. But I'm never coming out of the draft think, well, if I worked for a team that had an opportunity to draft Sidney Crosby, I would, or Connor McDavid, or I would have probably come out of the draft and thinking that he's going to play next year.
When you look at your back end, your left side top two pair would seem really strong the way you like Morenz and Gavrikov. Do you care if the next guy you acquire, the significant veteran, whoever that is a left side guy or right side guy? Can Gavrikov
Can play right side if needed. He has, and I think we have a lot of guys that really don't care which side they play on, so that can be shuffled. I think even that is more about the ability than whether you're right-handed or left-handed. If I can have 6 better defensemen than rather than having 3 right-handed shots, 6 all of them lefties, but they're better, I'd take 6 lefties all day if they're better than the next 3 guys that are right-handers.
How do you feel the scouting process was this year? Was it different than last year? Obviously, you've talked about Cole Sillinger, a player like him, if there's no COVID season, maybe he goes higher than where you got him in 12 last year. Were things different this year, more back to normal?
Yeah, obviously, and we got a little lucky with Cole. I've said it before, because he got COVID just before the World Under-18, where he would have played for Team Canada, and I think that would have changed the whole draft for him. But we're lucky. So, this year, the Ontario Hockey League didn't play at all the year before, so that's I feel bad for the kids that had to go through that and not play hockey all year. But this year we were able to see him live just as normal, and evaluate him and go through the process. It was a tough year the year before because of the a lot of video, which is not the same. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think you can scout players, skaters in particular, off of video as well as you can live. Goaltending may be one position where you can evaluate them based on just video, but I don't personally. I did it for a long time. I'd have a really tough time if I couldn't get to the rink and see the action, what the player sees, what he should have seen, what he could have seen, what he didn't see. You know, you have to have the camera angle from up top, and even then now it's like looking at, you know, at a video game, and it's not the same. And you don't see the emotions, you don't see the battle. I like to go, sometimes I'd go one period, and you know, in the international tournaments in particular with different, I'd go right up against the glass in one period and just see on the ice level and who flinches and who doesn't, and who goes to the battle hard and who's a little careful, and you know, stuff like that that you definitely don't see on tape. It's a whole different process with the live viewings. So.
You know, this first draft in a few years, I think since Vancouver, where everyone's been together, you're seeing people all over town from the draft. How good does it feel to just be back in this environment that you're so familiar with after 2 good weird years?
Yeah, it's good. I forgot how busy it gets here around the draft. You know, meeting after meeting after meeting, and you know, I got to run to the next one after this. But no, it's great, and you know, you miss seeing a lot of guys on the road and the lobby bar of the hotel for a beer after the game, and the draft's definitely it's a great event especially for the scouts that do this all year and put the miles in and drive through the snow, and to have this event for them, and it's rewarding.
Is your board done?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
How?
So always be some new information before, but I doubt.
Sure. What was the process like this year? Was it unique in any way? Just the way the scouts going back for the guys?
Not really. I mean, it's we're still doing it the same way. I think they've always talked about the importance of the area guys, how they have to have their area pinned out right from the start, so that the crossover guys can see the right guys when they go all over the world into the different areas, and then it's up to the crossover guys to put it all together with the different areas, and we don't want to make our list too long. We don't want to try to get to know 300 players. It's impossible for anybody to know, especially those crossover guys that put together the overall list. That, you know, if you're trying to know 300 players, you're not going to know any of them. So we're going to always try to narrow it down for a shorter list, and have confidence that we'll get all of our picks from a lot smaller group.
How many guys do you have on your list too?
I think it's around 100 this year.
What happens when those 100 guys are gone? What happens after that? Like after your 100 guys are
They
gone?
won't be gone.
Okay.
Jarmo, as a former scout yourself, so last season didn't really happen for a lot of these young guys. Do you feel like more than ever you'll see more gems and late bloomers coming from around 3 to 7 than ever?
Could be because of, you know, even with the you know, there could be some guys that were sort of missed last year when there was no hockey in Ontario, and you know, somebody like Dak could get drafted as a 19-year-old now, and all of a sudden it's like boom, he takes off, and it's a year closer to playing and making an impact than an 18-year-old. You know, there could be some players like that. I mean, every year there's players that surprise you, and you know, I've always said this, been repeating myself, but you know, people say if it's a bad draft, let's make it a good one by finding something that I just saw somebody make an example of I think it was the draft, 2017 draft, where it's like supposed to be a bad draft class, but then you look at the top 10 now, it's like, whoa, pretty good.
I think this may be close to what Jean-Luc just asked, but every year there's a few guys that could have been drafted a year earlier that end up getting drafted this year. Do you think there's more of those guys this year?
I think so, just because of the missed year in Ontario.
Yeah.
And last question for me, you talked about being back in person. Yes, trades can always happen over Zoom, phone calls, etc. Do you feel like this environment we'll see more trades, not necessarily from you, but just in general around the league with the cap and everybody being in person and being able to talk face to face?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that the in-person has a lot to do with it. I mean, yes, we run into each other in the lobby, but usually very briefly, and it's most communication by phone anyway. So, yeah, the salary cap situation will definitely affect a lot of decisions. Some teams, we've already seen it, that teams have to move players and players that they wouldn't want to move in normal situation, but that keeps the parity in the league, and that's why it's going to be such an exciting and competitive league again next year.
You wanted toughness this offseason. Is Olivier enough for you, or is that still a pursuit?
That's always a good quality to have. I think, I've said this before too. I believe in more in team toughness than having one or two tough guys that everybody can hide behind. So I believe in all 20 guys that dress up to have that competitiveness, battle mentality, push back, whatever you want to call it, and then you have guys that have a little extra grit on top of that and toughness, and that's great, and that's why we added Olivier but I think you watch the Stanley Cup Finals this year, and there's a lot of team toughness in highly skilled teams where there's always pushback. There's that battle mentality in every situation that you never step 2 inches backwards, and that's what I think is more important.
Do you think this draft, because there is some uncertainty, especially like you mentioned at the top and everything, do you get the feeling that there may be potential to have more kind of bigger named NHL players on the move than maybe a normal draft year?
I think it could be for the cap reasons or other different future plans with different organizations, but I don't think it's going to be any more. But we'll see.
Take 1 or 2 from Zoom, though.
Go to Jared Smalling. Go ahead, Jared.
Morning, Jarmo. Happy belated birthday, Bo.
Thank you.
A question, in previous years in the draft, we've talked about the center ice position, and you're, like most teams in the league, trying to strengthen that position. Obviously, you already discussed Cole and his impact early on. How do you view the positional strength at center ice now than you maybe did a year ago?
I think it's better. I think it's much better. And we still have some guys internally too that we've always believed that they can play center. We tried Texier there last year a bit, and he was more successful at wing, but I think he could still play better as center later in his career. Cole Sillinger certainly answered a lot of our questions there, and Ken Johnson was drafted as a guy who's played center always before he played college. So we have some good potential centers. Then we have Jack Roslovic, who really has played first-time full-time center in the NHL with us, and has been growing. In the second half of the season, was showing some great signs of becoming a good centerman in the National Hockey League. Boone Jenner has played center now and has his best season as a center. And then we had Sean Corrali, who I thought had an excellent season, and is in that mold that we really expect from all the Blue Jackets, the competitiveness and the drive, the desire that he brought to our group and leadership. I was extremely happy with the way he played. So I think that's a pretty good center ice group.
We'll wrap up with Mark Scheig. Go ahead, Mark.
Thanks, Glenn. Hey, good morning, Jarmo. A lot of people are looking at your team with 6 and 12, but that 44th pick is something that could be very important too. I just wonder, you used the second rounder last year to get Jake Bean. Could you see that being a piece to add a young talent, or possibly even somebody that could be a first rounder in your mind, the third one?
Yeah, well, we'll see once we get a little bit closer. As I said, we've had a lot of phone calls about 6th and 12th. And we're going to keep taking them and evaluating all the offers that we have in front of us, and keep an open mind, but it will take a lot to move 6 or 12. We're not going to move both, unless, I guess you never say never, but most likely not going to move both. But we could move one of them, but it would take a lot, and it would need to be that good young player. But we're going to view it, the opportunities with the second round pick just as well. But we also want to draft good young players that are going to be filling the needs in our depth chart. So I think we're in a real good position here with 2 first round picks and a second round pick and so forth.